Hello and welcome to the 10th episode of Retro Recall the PS1 Chronicles, a show where we play and rank every PlayStation game ever created. My name is Jimmy, and as always, I'm here with Mike.
Hello.
So what is your history with Star Wars?
Pretty much nothing. Zero. Most of my knowledge about Star Wars in general comes from two things: Spaceballs and the Family Guy Star Wars episodes. That's the extent of my knowledge.
That is insane to me. I love Spaceballs, but I wouldn't say I'm a huge fan, but I've seen all the movies.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I haven't seen all the shows because there's so many now, but...
Oh, I honestly forgot there was actually shows. But you at least know what's going on then. You know the lore behind a lot of stuff.
I know what everything is, yeah. I mean, I saw them all as a kid, saw the new ones in the theater when they came out. I saw all the spin-off movies in the theater too, and I watched The Mandalorian, at least the first few seasons, and that's it.
Is that the one with Baby Yoda?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, I like it. Like, I don't like, I'm not in love with it, but I like it enough.
I will say the one time I saw a portion of a movie, couldn't tell you which one it was. There was two guys fighting with lightsabers, and it was more like a ballet where they were dancing around each other and swinging their swords, more or less.
Yeah.
And I just saw that and I was like, I'm done. That's enough to tell me I don't want to watch whatever is happening in this show or movie. And even at work, the conversation of Star Wars comes up a lot because everyone at work seems to be huge fans. And I brought up the fact of I only watched Spaceballs and the Family Guy shows of this. And that's where all my knowledge came from. And they couldn't believe what I just said because, and I get their understanding of how can you watch those, which are parodies of this, without knowing what the real thing is.
Yeah, I mean, as a kid, my dad liked Star Wars, so I saw the originals a lot. And then when the prequels came out, I saw those in the theater. You know, I was like 10 years old seeing these. So I don't know. It's the newer ones, the new trilogy is mostly trash.
That's what I hear a lot. I don't know why, but I have heard a lot of people say that.
Granted, I haven't seen them all since they came out, and I saw them in the theater and never watched them again after that. But the first one of the newer ones is kind of like a rehash of the old stuff. The second one is okay. It's kind of weird. Just like some strange choices they made. And then the third one, I absolutely hated when I saw it. And that seems to be the sentiment for most people, is it just sucks.
I even heard, I don't know if it's the third movie, but who's the guy who plays Luke Skywalker? Mark Hamill? Yeah. So I've seen videos where even he hates where these movies are going, and he's very publicly speaking out about it too. So
that sounds about right. Yeah. I mean, I'm definitely a fan of him, especially all his voice acting. He's so sick. But
yeah, the Joker.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I just want to say, like, I like Star Wars. I'm a passive enjoyer, if anything. I'm not gonna like argue with you over it or like watch every single little thing. It's just, I've played games over the years too. I played Battlefront. I've played some of the newer ones like the Jedi Fallen Order game. I was looking forward to playing this game. So.
Well, yeah, I think of that. If we don't have it anymore, we should just get into that.
Well, I wanted to ask you one other thing. You don't like first-person shooters, do you?
Yes and no. I'll get into this a little bit more later in the show, but I'm not opposed to playing them. I'm just bad at them in general, at least modern day first-person shooters. I've played Halo a bunch of times with friends, and a lot of me playing the game was just me running around and dying before I even saw someone. And there's just a skill level there that I don't think I have for video games.
I hear you. I mean, like I'm like okay at them. Like I would say I enjoy third-person shooters more than first-person shooters.
I could agree with that.
I don't have a reason why. I just always liked them better.
Yeah, I played Gears of War a ton, all three of them. So that was really fun. And I have been getting better. I wanted to make it a point to get better at first-person shooters. My sister is very, very good at Fortnite. So occasionally her and I will jump on and play games. She carries me most matches. But through each match, I do see myself progressing and getting a little bit better. So it's nice to see that progression a little bit, but I'm nowhere near being able to actually play solo, at least.
Yeah, I've played Fortnite off and on with like friends and stuff. It's fine. And like, I think I said on the show at one point, I was playing Call of Duty, and like, it's fun for a little bit, but like, I don't know. I'm not the kind of person that's going to get super into one of those kind of games and like get the battle pass, progress through it, unlock everything. It's like, I jump in, play for a little bit. I've had my fill. I'll never think about it again.
Exactly. And that's kind of where I am now. I want to get into more games like that. Another one is Valorant. I kind of want to get into, but I just see people playing these games online and just the skill that they have, and it just puts me off from wanting to play it. But I know everyone has to start somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, I've played first-person shooters a bunch. I mean, I love Fallout, which I wouldn't count that as a first-person shooter, but it's a first-person game with shooting.
Yeah, I'm trying to like envision Fallout in my head right now. It's been a while.
I mean, it looks like Elder Scrolls, but with a gun.
True. Yeah.
I did play a lot of Halo as a kid, for sure. I definitely, we had the big, I think I mentioned this before, we had the big like LAN parties and stuff, but I never got into any of the more like sweaty games like Counter-Strike or anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems to be like people who love or are good at those games, just that's their life. They love first-person shooters. And you can see it with their skill level. It's like incredible to watch someone play at a high level.
It is. And I would never, ever put the time in to do that, ever.
Oh, no, me neither. I have no motivation to want to do that. I'll stick to my puzzle games and platformers.
Yeah, and I'll stick to being angry at Dark Souls. All right, well, now that we have our history set with both of these themes that are going to be in today's episode, let's get to the game. Star Wars Dark Forces was released on November 26, 1996 for the PlayStation. I believe it was the year before on PC. I didn't write that down, but this had already been out for a good bit before it came to PlayStation. And it was developed and published by LucasArts.
Which makes sense for that publisher.
They did all those adventure games too that are really good.
Yeah. Which is always interesting to see their logo pop up on the screen. You're like, oh yeah, I forgot that they were a thing in the past.
I know, they used to be like, you would see that and you're like, wow, this is going to be good.
Yeah, yeah. So right off the bat, the game starts really well. It's just your standard Star Wars text scrolling on the screen, which is what Star Wars is infamous for.
Yeah, I mean, it really sets the tone. And like, you're like, all right, here we go.
It has the yellow text. It has the music. It just puts you into that vibe of, okay, we are playing a Star Wars game.
I did laugh out loud at the shitty MIDI version of the Star Wars theme that was playing.
Yes. It's not super high quality at all. I think just the music in general in this game, it fits the tone of just Star Wars. There's nothing to say about it. It is Star Wars music and that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, I did a little digging into that, and it looks like the PC version is just the MIDI sounds from your computer, so whatever sound card you had at the time.
Oh.
So it looks like they just kind of like took one of those, I don't know which one, and just kind of like exported that and then put it into the PlayStation version. They didn't have like the PlayStation version and use sounds from that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's pretty interesting, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I am a big fan of MIDI sounds, so... But yeah, I mean, this is just a straight up first person shooter. I would even say it's a Doom clone, straight up.
I wish I had a webcam going whenever I first loaded into the very first mission, because the shock on my face when I saw what kind of game this was, it had to have looked hilarious. I was not expecting it to look like Doom. In my head, I'm picturing like, okay, maybe you're like this third person character running around with a lightsaber or something. To pop into the game and just have that Doom look, the Doom layout, the centered hand the hand in the center of the screen holding the gun. And I was just pure shock, but also happy at the same time.
Like relieved.
Yeah. But this kind of ties in we're gonna say it's a Doom clone a lot. How much of the original Doom did you play?
I played it a lot as a kid.
And so did I.
I had like the shareware demo. I bought my dad bought me. It was at like Office Max or Staples or something. It was a disc and it had 300 games on it. And one of them was the shareware version of Doom. So I just played that a ton as a kid.
Oh, wow. So your question about, how are you with first person shooters? Like nowadays, modern time, not great. But back in the day, I played Doom so much. I never actually played Wolfenstein 3D.
I mean, it's the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, Doom was just, that's why a lot of my comparisons are going to be to Doom with this game.
I mean, this game is just very close to Doom.
Yeah. The best way I could put it for anyone just listening to this is take the Doom monsters, replace them with stormtroopers, take the Doom music, replace it with Star Wars music, and you're done. That's more or less what this game looks like.
And when I say it's a Doom clone, I don't mean that in like a derogatory way either. Like it's still a fun game.
100%. It's comparing it to Doom is definitely not a negative thing at all.
Doom came out in 1993, and this came out the original version in 1995. So like that's what first-person shooters were then.
Exactly. And it's not like, oh, we're just trying to copy them. It's just for a first-person shooter, that's what it was. There wasn't too many technological breakthroughs you could do in the genre. So they kind of all do look alike just because of their limitations.
Yeah, and I mean, a quick side note, I don't know if you know this, but now a lot of indie games are coming out that are more like in the style of Doom, and they call them boomer shooters.
I never heard of that.
There's a bunch of them that are coming out. Like, there's those really fast-paced shooters where it's not about taking cover. It's not about like being smart. You're just running through and just slaying everything.
Yeah. And in a sense, that's what Doom to this day still does. Even the newest Doom is just run and just destroy everything in your path without really having a chance to stop and think about what you're doing.
So how long did you play this game for?
I did this for about 2 hours and 45 minutes. Almost 3 hours.
Okay.
How about you?
I played the PlayStation version for 1 hour because I got extremely motion sick.
What you texted me that scared me to want to play this game, because if it made you sick, then I was terrified of what it was going to do to me.
Okay. Real quick, I had the PC version already on Steam. I bought this bundle a while ago that was like every Star Wars game. So I already had it. And I played that for another like 2 to 3 hours just throughout the week because I like genuinely had a good time with it.
Oh.
But the PlayStation version, the first day I played for about 45 minutes and I had to go like lay down. I'm not lying. I made fun of you all this time for being motion sick, and then you haven't been motion sick this whole show so far, and I have been twice now.
I was going to bring that up. It's very weird how sensitive I am to this stuff, and you're the one getting sick over there.
I think the more modern stuff doesn't bother me, like the motion blur, but just the frame rate just hurts me. I played 45 minutes the first day, then a few days later, I'm like, okay, I need to just power through this. I need to just play some more of it. Played for 15 minutes, and I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I can't.
So in that time of an hour, how far did you get?
I got to I want to say 3rd level where you're in the sewers.
Okay, yeah. In my time, I got to the 4th chapter, which is the one right after that. I only just finished the sewer one this morning before we recorded, and I was playing the 4th level while I had a little bit more time. But with the motion sickness thing, it's weird. I will say I didn't get sick while playing it, but when I stopped playing it, I then started to feel the sickness in real life. Like just the vision of real life kind of was like messing with my head. And I don't know if that's
strange.
Because I was so used to seeing the frame rate that now when I saw the normal frame rate of life, it was like messing with my brain.
It's just like staring at it. Like I thought I could handle it. And then I'm just playing it, I'm just, especially, we'll get into this more in a bit, but a lot of this game is exploring and trying to figure out where you're going next and just scouring the environment, staring intently at this game. Not like just another like Doom. You're just quickly moving around and stuff. Whereas this, you're kind of more scouring around to try and figure out what to do. And I think just paying that such close attention to the game with that frame rate really just fucked me up.
I will say I did go to bed last night with a headache because of this game. Like I didn't feel well. Not to the point of like feeling nauseous, but I didn't feel well playing this.
I did want to say I got to the 5th level on the PC version.
Okay.
Because I had to start over and play everything I played again.
Right. But I bet it was a lot better doing it on the PC version.
Real quick, I will say I didn't play the original version. There was I went to the Steam page and there was a mod where someone ported it to the Source engine.
Oh.
Which is like Half-Life and Portal and stuff.
Yeah.
So it was really fun to play.
And I bet it looked really nice.
I mean, it looked like the original game, but just a little more depth to it.
To go along with the whole motion sickness thing is the amount of pixels, and I guess you could say in the game, of how muddy everything is, at least in the first few levels.
Well, how long did it take you to realize that you had the headlight, like the headlamp?
Seconds end up going into the game.
All right, well, then looks like we have a little role reversal this time because it took me a while.
How long?
At least the second or third level. Probably the second, when it's like darker.
It's weird. This time I actually did your technique and I was pushing all the buttons, going through everything, making sure. Although that did backfire on me a little bit, I did discover things that I guess I just skimmed over with my eyes. But how often did you actually use the headlamp? Because I think I only did once.
I kind of just left it on a lot of the time.
Oh, that's actually a good thing, because I was going to ask about the batteries. Like, how often did your batteries die?
When I got to the fourth level, that's when it died. And I was at a part that was really dark. Like you're crawling through like ducks. And obviously you're not going to show this because I don't have footage of it, but it's pitch black. So I can't figure out why my headlight isn't working. And then I realized, because I never ran out for me before, so I didn't know there were batteries. So I'm just pushing the key for that over and over again, and it's not working. I'm like, what the fuck? And then I realized you have to shoot those little droids on the ground to find batteries.
Yeah, they give you power cells or something like that.
Yeah. And then I used it after that. But especially on the PlayStation, the menus and it's just everything, it's just so clunky.
It is. It's, I guess, just to give the typical HUD layout. I think the HUD is laid out nicely. It gives you all the information you need right there, quick glances. But when you need to go to the PDA to look at stuff, that's where it like slows down a lot and is a little bit frustrating.
It reminds me of Legacy of Kain when you have to go into the menus.
Yeah, I wouldn't say as bad. Definitely not. Is a little bit quicker than that, but
yeah. But that I got a little flashback from that,
a little war flashback.
I did like how you could put the map on the screen while you're playing.
And that's the thing I missed while going through. It wasn't until like later in the third level that I discovered that there's the map overlay.
Yeah, I didn't even use it playing on the PlayStation at all until I switched to the PC version. And then I kind of just left it on the whole time, just because like the way this game kind of works is like you explore, then you realize you either missed something or there's somewhere you have to go, or there's something you have to grab that you just didn't find. So then I would pop on the map and just scour every fucking place that I've been already.
And we talked about this with the Tomb Raider, or no, not Tomb Raider, Blood Omen, of the map revealing itself, kind of. And Blood Omen, it was a heat map showing you where you walked. And this game is just like how it is. Again, I'll bring it up, Starsian, of when you're walking, you're discovering the map more. So you can't see later on down the level. It's as you see the wall, it pops up on your map, which I always love in video games when they do that.
Yeah, it's filling in real time as you're moving, which is cool.
And it tells you like, oh, I didn't go to this one corner of the map. I thought I did. So it gives you a chance to explore everything and see what you may have missed. The one thing that took me very long to figure out is when you're in the map on your PDA, you can use the symbol buttons to pan around the map.
Oh.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. So we always talk about improvements with the game. And I had this whole list of improvements, but then I started taking things off one by one as I was discovering it in the game. So I was stuck on this map like, well, I can only zoom in and out. I want to see over here to see if I missed anything. It wasn't until later on, like just a couple hours ago, I happened to hit triangle to like back out of the map, and then the map panned up. I was like, what just happened? And then moved or used the rest of the buttons, and shortly enough, that's the pan button.
I actually, especially once I started switching to the PC version, I really never used that map ever. I just had the one on the screen and would just constantly walk back and forth.
The only reason I used that one was because I missed it as the overlay option. When I finally did turn it on, the overlay option, you can back this up or not, I found myself only staring at the map. I never paid attention to what was going on in the background.
Absolutely. You're just staring at the little dot and you're just watching it fill in as you're moving, or just like looking for the little yellow parts, which means there's a door.
Or an elevator. And or green areas that like represent steps, I think. But I found it's a weird way of you're transitioning to a top-down game at that point instead of the 3D game.
Yeah, it is a little strange, but I don't know. One of my biggest problems with this game is I just a lot of the time couldn't figure out what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And especially after you beat a level, you have to go back to the beginning.
Beginning of what?
The level.
Not always. So on the third level, when you're in the sewers,
That's the only one. You're right. I'll give you that.
yeah, you find that guy and then it's like, all right, you're done. But so yeah, on the second level, I got lost because it's like, oh, now go back to where you got picked up. And I'm like, I don't know where that was. I've been running around this entire map. How do I know how to get back to the beginning?
The fourth and fifth level are so much worse with that. That's why I stopped playing on the fifth level because I did everything I had to do. I beat the boss of that level and I'm just like, I don't know where to go. And I had been scouring that level already because I was confused and I missed one little jump that would have helped me finish the level. And I was like, you know what? I had enough. I'm done.
I will say that when you do beat a level, you make it to the pickup point or you find the person, it's so anticlimactic.
It's also weird that you have to pause it and click end mission.
Yeah. You get to there and like in the first, or I think it was the first mission, you see the ship fly down and you're like, oh, this is cool. And then it just says, hey, push start to exit the mission. It's like, how? That's so anticlimactic. It's like, show a cutscene of me like, or the ship flying off at least. Something small. Give me something.
Yeah, and it's not even like the cutscenes are in like real time. They're just like these like almost comic book looking things, like graphic novel-esque.
Which I loved. I thought that was a really
I love
nice
it too. But I just mean like you could have just showed the ship going off in that style and it wouldn't have been that big of a deal.
Exactly. It kind of felt like getting through a corn maze. You find the exit to the corn maze and then it's like, okay, you're done. And that's all it was.
Yeah. The third and fourth and fifth levels get really hard with like the maze like qualities.
I gave up on the fourth one because I got lost. That's the one in the mountains, right? For you?
Yes. So what happened for me on that level is, did you get all the way to the end or no? Like once you get into the building and stuff or no?
No, I got to the part where like you have to drop down behind the one catwalk to sneak into that, to get into the building.
Yes.
And then you hit a button that goes down. So now you have a clear opening and I couldn't figure out where to go next after that.
I can't remember, but I just kind of like went back through the whole level and figured it out eventually. But at the end of that, there's a door with a code. And I looked this up because I'm like, what's the code? I don't know. And then turns out you're just supposed to walk around and kill all the enemies and one of them randomly drops a code.
So whenever they drop the code, you'll get a piece of paper that you read or it just tells you on the screen of the code?
So that's what I was going to lead to right now was I had the code the entire time.
Oh.
I just didn't look in the inventory because that's where it was.
Oh.
It's just like in the bottom corner, it's already opened. Like you don't open it up to look at it. It's just right there. It's like these three symbols. That's the code. But like I had it the entire time. I didn't even notice.
I probably wouldn't have noticed either because I almost never looked at my inventory.
Me either. I just thought like it probably popped up on the screen one time. You found the code or whatever. And I just didn't notice because I was fighting enemies.
Yeah, I would just happen to see the screen whenever I was on the map screen. And then it'd be like, oh, here's the weapons you have. Oh, cool. I don't care. And I would just keep going.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that's probably more on me than the game. But at the same time, it's like this game constantly has the pop-ups every time you pick up ammo or whatever. Like it's, you just kind of stop paying attention to it in a way. Like you just I don't read every one. So like I might have just picked it up when I picked up ammo and didn't notice.
Yeah, I get that. Well, so in the menus then, there's also the objectives, which I thought was a great touch.
You mean like the mission screen and everything?
Well, you have the mission screen, which is just a copy paste from what you see at the beginning of the mission. But then you have the objectives tab, which is like live tracking the missions you're supposed to be doing.
I didn't even really look at that. I will say I did really like the mission screens. They were very cool and very in-depth.
Yes, they give you the story. They give you, hey, this is your objective. They'll show you pictures of things that you need to look for, which is great.
Very helpful.
Then they give you a breakdown at the end. Oh, here's all the things you need to get done. So in the second level, I was running around for a while. I'm like, did I do everything? I don't know. I went to the objective screen and only the first thing was highlighted out of 3. So it's like, oh, I completed that first thing. Here's the other 2 things I need to do now. It's a very nice little touch of if you happen to get lost or you forget what you're doing, here's what you were doing. And I love that they have that in there.
my biggest, I don't know, I keep saying my biggest problem, but a problem with this game that I had that I was thinking about the whole time was I feel like I'm just like mindlessly wandering around most of the time. Like that's really all that I'm doing, until I find a switch or like just a dead end that I have to go back and figure out somewhere else. I don't feel like I'm moving with purpose in the world. I'm just kind of like stumbling around until I find the objective.
I think that's the best way to put it. Stumbling around is how I felt the entire game, especially in the sewer level 3. It just felt like I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm just running around and I happen to figure it out. And then I happen to beat that level. I'm like, cool, I don't know what I really did, but I ended up here.
So I want to say, like, it's a lot easier on the PC version because it's not as muddy. I felt like when I was playing that level on PS1, I couldn't tell what was going on half the time. Whether that's the muddy textures or the short draw distance. Like for that one specifically, when you're flipping those switches and you're trying to raise the water, it's just like, I don't know, I just can't tell what I'm actually doing. Like I know I'm doing something, but what am I doing? How does that work towards what I'm trying to accomplish or where I'm trying to go? I feel like I'm just stumbling around, pushing and flipping everything I see. And then once I hit a point where I don't know what to do anymore, then it's like, oh, okay, I have to go here. But I don't know. I don't like playing a game where I don't know what I'm doing. Like, yeah, just like I know the objective, but how do I get there? What is the reasoning? And how am I going to accomplish that? Right. I don't know. It felt weird playing it. Like almost it had no direction, but then it also like has a lot of direction. I don't know. Do you know what I'm getting at here?
It very much is in that gray zone of that. I guess what difficulty do you play on?
Easy.
Okay, me too. Because I was maybe you thought, or I thought maybe you would do the normal difficulty, and I was wondering how that was because even the enemies are kind of just there, and I feel like it's just there for you to shoot.
So I did watch some footage of somebody playing on normal, and it is a little tougher with like you can die from the enemies. Like it's not just like walking through and slaughtering them all and not thinking twice about it.
Do they shoot faster? Are they more accurate with their shots, or are there just more enemies?
I think they're just more powerful, and I think you have less ammo.
Oh,
because like as this game went on, you never had a problem finding shields, health, ammo. Never.
I was almost always maxed out on everything this entire game.
But I would like to think that's just because we were playing on easy.
Probably.
I'm not above playing on easy in any game, honestly. I don't care.
Not at all, because it doesn't say we were to play it on hard. I feel like we're going to have a more negative thought to the game going into it than we would for easy, because at least on easy, we get to experience all the stuff that we need to experience.
I mean, that's even how I feel in modern games, honestly. Like, I always start on normal with a new game I'm playing, obviously, but if I have to bump it down on easy because I'm stuck on something for too long, I don't feel guilty about it. Play the way you want to play. Exactly.
If you're the type of person who only wants to play on expert mode and that's it, then fine. But I never like the gatekeeping of you only have to play a game on hard mode, and that's the only way to play a game.
Yeah, and especially like most games, hard mode just means that the enemies are bullet sponges.
Yeah, or there's just more of them for some reason. That's about it.
Yeah, so I never feel guilty, but yeah.
But also going back to the graphics, immediately level 1, I realized how bad it was. It was the walls off to the side. You had corners of the wall blending into the wall, so you couldn't tell there was a corner there because of the textures. There was like a hidden pathway that you can go get ammo or something. You almost couldn't even see the steps even when you're standing on the steps because of how everything meshes together.
Yeah, I mean, it just looks like shit. Like there's no other way to put it. The game looks terrible.
There were times I'd be getting shot by something, and I had to just stand still and wait to see where the shot came from because, like you said, with the draw distance and how pixelated everything is in the background, I'd have to wait to see where the bullet came from. Like, oh, that's the enemy. I thought that was just an object on a counter. I couldn't really tell what that thing was.
Especially on the second level where like the enemies are shooting at you from across the little river. Like you just hear a shot and you hear, hey, you're not supposed to be here or something. And then you're like, where are they?
You just stop and look around casually trying to figure out what the guy even is.
Well, I mean, that just kind of goes back to what you were saying before too, where like on easy mode, the enemies they don't matter. So like even when someone's shooting at you, I'm just like, where are they? Okay. And then I just kill them all.
They also never pursued. Did you notice that?
They didn't know. Once you leave the little screen that they're at, they don't come after you.
Yeah, it's kind of like they're in their walking animation, and when they get to a certain point and they see you, oh, I'm going to shoot, but then I'm going to continue my walking animation. It was never like they were dead set on getting you killed in that moment, especially if they were farther away.
Yeah. That kind of just seems like one of those things that was going on with games then. Kind of just, they have their route and, they're going to shoot you if they see you, but they're not going to follow you.
There are times, though, some things that they do that I really like, especially in the second level where it's all about turning on the generator, but until you turn on the generator, there's a lot of dark areas. I really like how if you're in a dark room, the enemies can't see you.
I didn't even notice that because I just shot them all immediately.
Oh, okay. That in my footage, if you can even make out what you can see in my footage.
I know, right?
I'm literally like right in front of a stormtrooper, just standing there. And I was even like moving around like, hey, can you see me? Like, are you going to shoot me? And then there's like 3 of them in a row and I just went down and killed them because they didn't know where I was at, which I guess could lead into the aiming.
I was literally about to bring that up. For a lot of the time, I didn't feel like I had to aim really. But then I got to the sewer level and you have to aim up at those droids or you can't kill them.
Exactly.
I wish this was like Doom straight up where like that up and down vertically didn't matter and it would just automatically shoot them, because aiming on PlayStation is a fucking nightmare.
I would say maybe 70% of the time you don't have to look up and down. I would
agree with that.
It does do the automatic aiming up for you or shooting up for you. But yeah, when you get those droids that are flying above you, I noticed more times than not, the bullets wouldn't go up. So then I would have to tilt my guy up and look up.
So what I would do instead of like tilting, because you have to hold, is it L1 and then look up?
Yeah.
I would just jump and shoot.
Oh, I didn't think about doing that.
Well, because it's so annoying to like readjust yourself after aiming up. Because then you don't feel like you're straight up and down like your level again. I don't know if that happened to you.
No, because you just have to tap L1 and it resets you perfectly.
Well, I didn't know that, so there it is.
I was going to say, are you manually putting yourself back down to being straight again?
I was, yeah.
Yeah, if you just tap it, it quickly snaps your character down to looking where they were.
That's a good feature.
So we brought it up at the top of the show. This was a PC game, ported over to PS1. With the limitations they had, it honestly isn't that bad of a controller layout.
I thought you were going to say it isn't that bad of a game. I was going to say, settle down.
No, just with the way that the controls are, I never thought it was too terrible.
No, I mean, like with the limitations they had at the time, with not having the sticks and even that control scheme even being thought of yet, I think that they did as good of a job as they possibly could have.
Exactly. Sure, it was a little bit frustrating, but what can you do about it? You're trying to make a PC game into a PS1 game, and you're going to have those limitations regardless.
Overall, didn't have a hard time with the controls at all. I mean, anything I didn't really notice was just on me. I did not look at the manual this time, so maybe that's a little bit of it too.
The only thing I looked up in the manual, as always, I just looked at what the controls were, but the game does a good job of giving you all the controls right at the beginning of the game.
I did look at the controls, but like in the game, but I feel like it doesn't really show you a lot of the nuance there.
Yeah.
Or like going in depth with like what a lot of the stuff in the menu actually is and what it does.
Yeah, and that's the one reason I knew about the battery simple was because the manual, it happened to be on like the next page. I didn't go all the way in depth. I kind of just like to scroll, and if something seems like important information, then I'll read it. But for the most part, it's just text, and I just skip all past it.
Typically, I go and look at the controls. I didn't do that this time, so that's on me. But I don't know. There's just a lot of those little things that I felt like I never used either. Like, did you ever use like any of the goggles?
No. I turned them the infrared on once for like 5 seconds just to see, but that's about it. Just to see what it would look like on the screen. That's all.
I did turn it on one time when I was playing on the PC version because that's what I was telling you earlier when my headlamp ran out. I could use that instead of the headlamp to help me see a little better.
Oh, okay.
But that was like a last resort, and it, I would like to think maybe later in the game there is a reason that you have those, but I don't know.
Yeah, I would assume it's just like I said, the enemies can't see you in the dark. So maybe it's just wanting to go that stealth route. I should have tested this of if your headlamp is on, if they can see you. I would assume yes.
I'm pretty sure yes.
So I would just think that the infrared goggles are just, you want to go that like Tom Clancy route, be stealthy and sneak up on people.
This is such a strange conversation.
It really is.
I just feel weird about it because I genuinely like this game, but I hate it on the PlayStation.
No, you're justified in saying that. Did you have a favorite weapon at all, or?
I mostly just stuck with like the faster, it's like a rifle that you get from all the stormtroopers.
Yeah, that was my main gun too.
I unlocked 2 other guns, one in the 4th level, right? And then another one in the 5th level, which the 5th level has the first boss, which is one of those dark troopers that they're talking about.
Oh, okay.
And I got a more powerful gun that was like basically kind of like a shotgun-esque thing, like a laser shotgun. And I just repeatedly pumped him with that until he died. But I was just stuck with the one that there was always ammo for. Because like every time you kill a stormtrooper, you get ammo back. So like you're always maxed out. Why change anything when you don't need to?
And obviously people won't be able to see all that stuff you're talking about. That was on the PC version.
I did try and capture my PC footage because I was going to like have you include it. But for some reason it didn't work. Like the first time I played it, I got into the game and then I had my thing on the other screen and I was trying to capture it and it kept being weird. But then I finally got it to start recording, and being an idiot, I didn't test it right after that to see if it was recording. So I played for an hour and then I went to look at the footage and it was just a blank screen with no sound. So, whatever. Probably better we don't show the better version of the game anyway.
Yeah. I do like how, because I managed to get the gun or the grenades. I never used them.
Oh, me too. I forgot about that. Yeah.
I never used them at all, but I did get them.
I used it once and hurt myself. Then I never used it again.
Oh, good to know that you can hurt yourself with it. I love how you can also punch.
I never really did that either, just because like there's no reason to, but it is cool.
Yeah, I don't see any scenario in which you would want to use it. The only thing I wish is that you had a lightsaber.
Well, you're not a Jedi.
Oh, okay.
You're like a mercenary guy.
Okay, that makes sense. I just think Star Wars, you immediately go to lightsaber. I feel like it's expected in a Star Wars game, but you know more than I do.
So I did a little bit of research, and I'm pretty sure he becomes a Jedi later. Because like this character, Kyle Katarn, is like in a bunch of Star Wars games.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like this is the first one, I believe. But like he's in a bunch of other ones. He becomes a Jedi. I don't know how deep it goes because I never played any of them. But on that topic, really, I thought the story was pretty good. I mean, it does a good job of making you feel like this is a Star Wars thing.
It really feels like the Star Wars universe. Like, oh, you need to find the Death Star plans, and then now you got to find this guy. And
I did particularly like the scenes with Darth Vader. Those were cool.
I only got to 1 in my playthrough, like the very first one you see.
I think I might have seen 2, but I don't remember. I definitely at least saw the one that you saw, obviously, but I just thought it was all well done for what it is. And the story really isn't enough to like propel you through the game, I felt, but it's enough that it, gets you in the mood to play,
Yeah. Yeah. It's just, oh, you're a Star Wars fan. You're going to like this game pretty much.
Yeah. I just mean like no one's going to play this game just for the story.
Exactly. So with all that, I did have a negative experience.
Yeah. I was wondering how long we were going to go here.
Where my game froze on me and I lost all the progress I made in that level. Did that happen to you at all?
It happened to me once with the map. But what I've learned, and another thing you could probably keep in mind, is regardless of if I'm going to use them in a different way, I always do a save state every once in a while.
Just in case.
Yeah. Because like replaying the level like you had to do, it doesn't, like it's not gonna change your feeling about the game really. You're still just as annoyed that it crashed, even if you don't have to play it again. You know what I mean? I just don't want to like waste my time, but also like, you never know what'll happen with, the emulator or your computer or anything. Like, I just always like to have a few save states just in case something goes wrong. You never know.
Yeah, that actually does make a lot of sense. And the reason, at least from what I found, that it froze, because it happened to me twice. And the second time is when I just went to bed. I was done after that.
Yeah.
Is if you zoom out all the way maxed, it seems to freeze the game.
On the map?
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense then. I didn't really think about it too much. And I think that's part of the reason why I never really looked at the map again, because it crashed. And I was like, I don't know what caused this. I don't want to find out. I don't want to do it anymore. So I just didn't look at the map.
Yeah, I was very cautious that when I did have to use the map after that. I'm like, am I maxed out? Like, I don't want to go too far backwards in this map to freeze up my game. But the second one also deals with the map. And that is when I was using the map overlay, I noticed that randomly, this was never consistent, but my game kept pausing itself whenever I was running around with the map overlay on.
So my game did that anyway, and I didn't have that on.
Weird.
I seem to only notice it like later in my playthrough on the PlayStation. I thought maybe something was wrong with my computer or the controller. Like I unplugged the controller, plugged it back in to make sure there wasn't something weird going on there. I like closed everything and opened it back up, restarted my computer because it kept happening. It wasn't like constant. It seemed random.
So I did the same thing. I restarted my computer, checked the controller. I started playing Rollaway again because I was like, I'm going to test it on this game, see if it keeps pausing on Rollaway, figure out where this is at. It wasn't until I turned off the map overlay that my game was fixed. And if I had the map overlay on, and it was only very specific areas, and I couldn't figure out why, but there were some areas where if you were standing, it was just nonstop. You were caught into a pausing loop until you ran out of that area, and then you were fine.
That's strange. With the way this game runs and, the quality of the port, glitches like that are no surprise to me at all.
Well, kind of, yeah, but it's surprising that that's the only glitch that I found. I didn't really notice anything else.
Well, that and the map crashing,
Oh, yeah.
The one you just said.
Yeah. But I feel like we're coming up towards the end.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get into this more when we get to the ranking and all that, but I just feel so conflicted on how to give a score to this game because, like I said, I like the PC version, but I don't like the PlayStation version. And I actively had to go lay down after I played it because it made me sick to my stomach.
Yeah, I've been conflicted the entire time too. And we've talked about this way longer than I thought we were going to.
Me too.
I thought this was going to be such a short episode.
We say that every time.
I know. But I guess before we get into the reviews, what about improvements? Aside from graphics, we know graphics need to be improved.
If the frame rate was solid on this and the graphics just were a tiny bit better, I'm not asking for, anything amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there wouldn't really be much to say. And like, obviously the glitches and stuff were fixed, but like for me, the score I'm going to give this game later is purely going to be based on the performance and the just terrible experience I had actively playing this game. Not really representative of the game itself, because on the PC, I loved it.
I understand.
My improvements are really just if they could have better replicated that PC original on the PlayStation, then I wouldn't have anything bad to say.
The only thing I could really think of is instead of the map overlay, I would have loved a mini map.
Yeah.
That would have been nice. And just cinematics. We already talked about that for the end of the level. Those are the only two things. Both aren't important, but
I mean, as far as like getting into the actual gameplay, I kind of just feel like the whole having to go back to your ship at the end of the level is a neat idea, but in practice, I hate it.
Yeah. Especially if you get lost. It's just a pain to figure out how you even got to where you were in the first place.
Well, we didn't really mention this. I don't know if you encountered it either. There's a lot of times where you get to a point in a level where you can't go back anymore.
I'm trying to think. Do you have a specific level in mind?
It happens in both level 4 and 5.
Oh, okay.
You just, like, it's either like a jump you can't jump back up to, or like different doors are closed and open and you can't reopen them. So you have to basically figure out a different way to go. And both of those levels, I got stuck and either looked it up or quit. Because like I just got so frustrated, I couldn't figure out where to go. And I literally would scour the entire level that I could get to, and I never figured it out. So like, I just think a little less of the crypticness of, an older first-person shooter would make this game better. But at the same time, it is what it is. They're almost 30 years old.
Yeah, exactly.
It is what it is. I don't really I don't have improvements in mind that wouldn't just change what the game is.
Yeah, like you said, the core gameplay of it is great. It's just these little performance things that really need to be worked on the most.
All right, so let's get to some reviews before we get to our scores. I specifically picked reviews of the PlayStation 1, obviously, and oh boy, they're pretty much in line with kind of how I feel. GameSpot gave it a 5.4 and said, though the speed of the PlayStation allows for smooth movement, Dark Forces boast a horrendously choppy frame rate. In addition, the utter blandness of the individual slaying grounds makes gameplay nothing short of nauseating. And you can see why I picked this one.
Yeah, so I would assume that's 5.4. That's the lowest score I think we've seen so far, right?
Yeah, I think so. Because most of the games we pick, like the reviews might be a little lower, but they kind of stick around like the 5 to 6 range.
Yeah, I think 6 is the lowest I remember from a review.
Yeah. I mean, some of them, there were lower reviews, but I couldn't pull any quotes from it because it's, either not available or whatever.
Yeah, that's understandable.
IGN gave it a 5, and they said, unlike the PC and Mac versions, PlayStation Dark Forces is grainier than a loaf of bread. Close up, everything is blocky and pixelated, but even from far away, the walls and textures look like big, chunky blocks.
And I complained about that earlier too.
I mean, these reviews are pretty on par with what I think.
Yeah, I think those two encapsulate the problems in the game.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much every problem I have with the game is in those two reviews.
Yep, I agree. I mean, I don't fully get the nauseated one, but I understand that it affected you a lot.
I'm not lying, dude. I like sat here and I was playing it. I felt my head start to hurt. Then I started to feel a little nauseous and I'm like, you know what, whatever, I'll keep playing. I forced myself to finish the level that I was on. And then I just like stood up, walked away from it. And I was like, fuck.
So it's pretty much me with Doom 3.
Yeah. And I was like getting sweaty. I don't know. I just went and laid on the couch for a little bit. And I'm like, man, I've never had a game do this to me other than like VR ever.
Yeah. I'm sure, like you said, that's going to affect your ranking a lot. So
I'll let you go first. I don't want to like say mine and then you change yours to mine. So you go first.
I honestly think this might be the very first review we ever do where it's going to be more of a conversation after we have our numbers out, because I feel like we both need to talk this out to get a solid number going. But not much to say that we haven't already said. I think the gameplay was fun, considering I loved playing Doom as a kid. The puzzles weren't too much. If there were puzzles, I think with the way you have to look and you have to platform, it made it a little difficult sometimes. But overall, the game was fun. I just felt like there could have been a little bit more that they included in the game, just for content-wise, instead of just running around aimlessly after you killed everyone.
On that note, though, I feel like there's a lot more levels after what we've played.
Exactly.
And each level has its own unique thing to it. So I feel like as you move on, there's probably more stuff to do.
Yeah. And that's why it's hard to really like say all that, because they could get really fun later on if you can make it that far. So with my ranking, I thought about this for a while and I really want to say it sits around like, let's just say 5.5 is where I was putting it.
Okay. So I genuinely like the PC version of this game. And, that content is also in the PlayStation version, obviously, but the PlayStation version is just executed so poorly that obviously it made me sick. And it made me mad just like at how shitty of a job they did with this.
Yeah.
And with that, I have to give this game a 3.
Oh, man. That was so much more harsh than I thought it was going to be.
Dude, I couldn't play it. Like,
I get that. I do. I get that.
I don't know. I'm looking at our score thing, right? And 3, horrible. Has potential, but isn't executed well. I know it has potential because the other version is great. And the other version, I'd probably give like a 7. That's kind of where I would probably sit. But the quality of this port is just so poor. And I don't really know what else to say that we haven't already said. But like, I would recommend nobody ever play this PlayStation version. Ever.
I'm shocked at that score. I get it though. I do get it that you could only put an hour in and then you were done because of how sick it made you. I still don't know why it didn't affect me as bad as it affected you.
Maybe the lower frame rate doesn't bother you and it's more like other stuff that gets you.
Maybe.
But the frame rate stuff really bugs me. Like when I mentioned like VR, like when a game isn't a high frame rate or when you're like moving freely in VR, that always gets me really bad.
Yeah, so I mean, I genuinely enjoyed the game. Aside from the small things we talked about, it wasn't too terrible for me. That's why I gave it. I felt like it was a middle of the road game. That's why I gave it a higher score than that. But
I don't know. Do you think I'm being too harsh? Am I trying to make an example out of this game?
well, no. So the way I'm looking at this is it's all based on perspective. I had a fun experience with it. I think they could have done better, and that's why mine was middle of the road. While your experience of it was literally unplayable. So I get why yours is lower, because if you can't play the game long enough to actually enjoy it, then yeah, it's going to get a lower score.
I can agree with that. It sucks because I do like it, but if you ever want to play this game, don't play this version. That's just what it comes down to.
It's the exact same thing we said about Blood Omen. Just play the PC version.
Yeah, I mean, this is just a more extreme example of that, I guess.
So I don't think you're being harsh, because even the reviews complained about the frame rate. So
even at the time, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not saying that I agree with the frame rate. It was bad, but it wasn't as bad as it could have been. It could have been way worse.
I hear you. I don't know. I think I'm going to stick with it.
Yeah. So with that, we have an average score of 4.25, which puts us at the new worst game that we have ever played.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with that. It just sucks because like the game is good, and there's a remaster coming out, which should be coming out around the time this episode goes out, and it's on all modern consoles. It looks nice. Looks like it's going to play really well. They're not really changing anything about it. They're just kind of like up-resing it, and it's just going to play like the PC version, but in a modern sense, which is cool.
Which is interesting because I may actually check that out and might actually get it. And it might be my first Star Wars game I actually get, because I could see myself playing this game for a long time. Not on this version, but I could see myself playing this game for a long time.
That's what I was saying. Like, I still want to go back to the PC version. So I think when that comes out, I'm going to get it.
Yeah, I might have to check that out too.
All right. Well, with that, that's going to do it for us. So thank you so much for watching or listening. If you enjoyed this, please remember to like and subscribe, as well as give us a rating on podcast services. We'll see you next time.